Hello everybody, and this is a story called The Cooper's Family, which to me was an old show I used to play in my bedroom. And I'll still, well, yeah, but this is it. It's called The Cooper's Family. Ron and Sally Cooper both had a dream of helping people with really bad illnesses recover through talk therapy and using the right medication. They were given the funding for a new medical centre to be built in Carlton in Melbourne. Their plan was to open the centre and start a family of medical practitioners. They did that by inviting the Lord Mayor of Melbourne, Miss Fran Bettings, to cut the ribbon. It was a day of celebrations, it being the first time Carlton was to get a medical centre in this form. After the ribbon was cut, they went inside for the official opening with drinks and nibblies for afters. Fran made a speech that blew everyone's heart away, and Ron laid down his plans to build this practice from scratch, including having babies, delivering babies, and training them to be doctors and nurses. His kids will be doctors and nurses. They will invite members of the families to help in the clinic as well. The future plan is to open the Cooper's Family Hospital after everyone is experienced and grown up. This is a long way off yet, but they are quite confident that it will happen one day. They have the site already in mind. They just have to get the go-ahead from the Victorian government. 2 weeks later, Sally fell pregnant, and this was one of the best things that ever happened to her. Ron was delighted and invited all the family over for a big smack-up dinner to celebrate their good news. Ron showed everyone the ultrasound and said it was a little boy. Ron was determined to make sure that nothing would go wrong before the birth. You might have called him a bit of a control freak. Sally understood Ron's eagerness and laid off alcohol or heavy starched foods. Ron could be overbearing, but he just cares for the baby and not just about the doctor bit that he wants when he's older. It's all for his actual total well-being. Sally was getting moodier and moodier about this whole thing, which drove Ron completely nuts, but he understood her condition. The day finally arrived, and Ron was nervous like anything, which made him unable to help deliver babies. He decided to wait in the waiting room. There was a paranoid schizophrenic there who was asking when the money was being put into his bank account, with a few more swear words in there. Yet that didn't spoil the mood for Ron as he continued to wait patiently for his son to come into the world. 2 hours had passed, and Ron was ever so tired, and the patients were getting angrier and angrier. Ron just taught himself to be patient because he will be putting up with all their bullshit in a few more years. It made Ron think that his new clinic would take away the burden of this place. Eventually, the baby was born, and the nurses woke Ron up and said, "You have a baby boy, and would you like to see him?" Ron was happy to see him. After they got home, they invited the whole family to a naming ceremony, in which they named him David Rick Cooper. Ron and Sally had a tough couple of months, with 2 a.m. feeds, endless number of patients, and family commitments. It drove them nuts. When David was 18 months, he took his first steps, which made Ron and Sally feel they would want to try for another baby. 3 months after Sally fell pregnant to a little girl, and things seemed to go backwards and not forwards, but Ron was trying to have a positive attitude about it all, though it was hard for Sally to go through all that again, with their first running around the house causing mischief. Sally was more determined to stick to the same diet as when she was having David, because that was so successful. Ron invited the family for a celebration of the second pregnancy with Sally's second. Months and months went by with Sally being moody all day and all night, driving Ron to have a lager down the pub. It was all worth it when Sally was rushed to hospital having contractions, and 5 hours later the birth of their second, who was later named Sally Marlene Cooper. Ron and Sally were proud to be parents after checkup after checkup, being a clean bill of health. David was the king of the house, trying to learn how to use the stethoscope on every one of his friends at his public school. She was just playing the happy mother who retired on his brother being a doctor. Ron and Sally treated them as normal as can be. They took them to the sporting events as well as letting them see Santa at Christmas time. It was fun to have such a lovely family. The years went along so quickly, and David and Sue were growing up fast, but they still wanted to stay in the family business. So they definitely didn't have a problem there. Okay, so that was the start. That was the first little episode. I hope you enjoyed. That's actually the sort of how they actually started, how they got the birth of Ron and David.